what happens when you purify your body, your mind, your spirit. Something miraculous. The body begins to heal itself. Welcome to the Medicine Girl podcast, where each week we explore new ways to heal your body from the root, igniting your inner healer. You are the medicine. And now, here's your host, Robin Stebbins.
Hello and welcome to the Medicine Girl podcast. It is me, your host, Robin Stebbins, and today I'm here with Kerry Morgan. Kerry has shared some amazing posts on Facebook, and I really feel like in that sense, I know her. This is my first time meeting her. But Kerry kind of shared before how you are a yoga instructor, and through the course of healing, you have deeply trusted that intuition, that wisdom that we all have inside. Sometimes it gets pretty clouded with various noise from programming, from parents and teachers, and on this current narrative as well.
Yes.
So I was just wanting you to go a little deeper and share that journey from when you tapped into your wisdom. You know what you know, but you kind of want to go a little deeper. How did that look for you?
Okay, so it looked for me when we owned our own business, and I think just over the years, I got caught up in the reacting, right? Getting things done, moving faster. And I forgot that I am the person that people come to feel ease. So all throughout my whole life, I had always listened to my intuition. So people would be upset or something was going on and be like, breathe in a bag, because I just, whatever came to me, I usually would speak it, right? I didn't hold back. And so when I had my own panic attack, just because I was like, I can do everything, I can get this done, which I did. But it was a constant of not giving my body enough time to reset in between. So I literally looked down, I'm like, what is happening, right? Like, what is that? Is that what's going on in my body? And here I was like kind of having a panic attack, but I didn't even really know what it was. So at that moment, and I think it was my spiritual body looking at my physical body saying, what is going on with you? We're out of sync. And then after that, I said at that moment, this will not ever happen to me again. And that was probably over 12 years ago. And anytime I start to feel any kind of unsettling or unease in my body, then I go right back to, okay, so what am I doing that is not in alignment with myself? So maybe I'll go for a walk, or maybe I'll do some singing bowls, or, something like that. So you have to be in sync with your body, but you also have to listen, because you have signs all around you telling you your next step, telling you what to do to get back in track, because we are spiritual beings living in this physical body. And the world loves to distract us with just the fact that, if you look this way, you can have this, but you're also creating what they're making you look at. So you need to make sure that you're tapping into your soul's alignment, also just putting all the puzzles back into your life first, and then everything comes up to where you're vibrating. So I hope that was good.
Yeah, I like that. What struck me the most is that when the majority of the planet right now has a symptom, let's say a panic attack, or you're feeling anxious, or you're feeling depressed, you think of, what do I take? What do I do? Mm-hmm. Instead of stop and then rewind. Where were you out of harmony with your soul? Where were you out of this alignment? This physical self, our ego, all these multifaceted parts of ourselves. Where did we disconnect from our soul?
Yes.
And then you can start to see, was it working too much? Like a lot of women that are capable, we tend to do it all because we can.
Yes.
But then you start to realize, well, at what expense, and what expense to my enjoyment of life and being able to really find joy. And I think that points to my next question, which is, how did you awaken to the level that you are? You're very aware of what's happening right now, I think, on our planet, based on just your posts and your texts and everything that you're portraying. What brought you to that level of awareness?
Yes. So this, and I guess it was years ago. So I always see things, but I would kind of pull back and just kind of keep it to myself. But I gave it like a month when everything was happening. I was like, oh, this is not adding up. Because so my dad taught me chess when I was young. And I think that changed my life at a young age, because they had me at 15. So I had like a lot, like I've never really had rules. I kind of like lived, created my own and knew there was something better in life. Like there was always something guiding me. But the chess really helped me to understand that you have to be thinking 3 steps ahead, or look 3 steps ahead, or the big picture in life. And what's happening right now is everyone is just right here looking, like reacting. It's like you work all the time, so someone tells you what to do, so you listen. And that's what was happening. People were listening because they never listened to their soul. So they never knew what the next step was to take. But when you play chess, if you make one move, then you need to know that that move is going to trigger 3 different events in your perspective, in your life, in your family, in your emotional beings, in your spiritual being. And that's how I live my life. And that's what I saw was happening. I said, this move that they're making has to be something bigger, and it has to be geared to something that's going to make them prosper. I said, because this is not helping. I said, alcohol makes you more depressed. And I said, staying in your home makes you more depressed. I said, nothing is making anyone feel better or giving them a solution. So right there, I kind of gave it a little bit of time, and I just kind of reposted on my Facebook because what I had put up like right in the beginning. I was like, I'm just watching everyone let our rights just get taken away, and I just kind of like, it was really funny. And then I was just like, oh my God, this is happening, because I didn't know how far it was going to go, but that did let me see it at that moment. But before that, I've always had knowledge, but kept it to myself, I guess, in that. But it was time for me. My soul was like, you have to speak up. So
that's right. I think a lot of us that had just been like, we saw the craziness. I was working in healthcare for 35 years, and I've been screaming about the craziness for 35 years, but no one listened. People are listening now. And those of us that didn't really speak to larger audiences, now it's our time. We need to speak because our voices are clear. And by clear, I mean, we don't get too swayed by either side. Like there's propaganda coming in at all angles. There's counterintelligence, there's counter psyops. Like you got to be really discerning right now to figure out what's real and what isn't. And those of us that have developed that skill with our soul, our inner voice, know like, okay, what you're saying to me is not adding up. It does not follow the rules of logic in any way. So then I'm thinking, okay, well, like you said with chess, what if I pan out a little bit further? It can't be about this, supposed virus overturning the world based on 3 studies. That if you read those scientific studies, it's an abomination to science. And so people started researching all of the research that the research was based on. You kept going back and back and back. And like Kerry said, who invented the PCR test, it's like, no one knows, do they? Yeah. No one knows. So we've overturned the entire planet as the people. This was their plan, of course. But as we, the people, we've given up our freedoms. I say we because I am not a isolated cell. We are God consciousness collectively. So if you're not awake, then we really can't truly awaken. So that's kind of where I see this going, and why I really wanted to talk to you, because I value your voice in this. So I usually save the last part of this for solutions, but I really want to get into like the meat and potatoes of what you see as solutions. The first question I have about that is, how do you speak to people personally, Kerry, that are not awake, that maybe family members that think you're crazy or think that you need to be on drugs or locked up?
Yes. So that, I think, where it gets a little sticky, right? Because they're almost turning soulless. And it's like their DNA is changing. So they're not the same person. And they're the deeper they go in and the more shots they take, or the more, that it's almost like
Yeah.
keeping them asleep more, it's going to make you feel like they're not listening. So I think the best way to address any situation is, first, you have to kind of heal yourself in that process. You have to see yourself before you hold a conversation. I mean, I'm telling people not to just go in and bombard somebody. I mean, I want people to like maybe sit in a space that they find comfortable or relaxing in their home. Like I make a little spot where I know all my energy is clean and I say a word to I can zone into, and I kind of settle my soul. And when you do that, and when you want to touch somebody, but you want somebody to understand a situation that they're going through and a conversation, you see that person beforehand, and you see yourself presenting a conversation to them. Right. And then you see them reacting to you in that conversation before it happens. So you're almost guiding this journey,
Yes.
right? You're guiding this story, because what they are distracted. So they're just watching and they're creating what the media has told them to create. So in reality, when they had everyone asleep, they were literally making people create this pandemic. Do you know what I mean? It was a
Yes.
visual creation in people's minds. So all that energy and everybody in the streets and everything that they were doing, they were literally creating a almost like a realm, right? And like a spell over people. So
That's what, yes. Let's get
yeah.
back to that spell piece, but keep going.
Yes. So what you have to do now, since they are so induced, is see yourself holding a conversation with the person you love. And then you have to energetically rise out of the fear, right? And you have to allow them to meet you halfway. So while you're having that conversation and you're, a visual conversation while you're sitting down and you're talking, you are vibrating so high in that conversation before you have it with them. It is settling their soul so that you could have a reasonable conversation in the physical realm with them. Okay. So I know it probably sounds like absurd, but this is the best solution, I feel, because people are just not going to hear us. They're just not hearing anything. But when you do this, it's an energetical field. It's almost like, okay, I'll break this down so, people that don't understand this can understand. If there's sometimes where you thought of somebody and you wanted to speak to them, but then they called you, that's the same process. If you bought a red car and you're like, oh my God, I really want this red Land Rover or whatever, you'll see it everywhere. If I really want this Mercedes, you'll see that color in that car everywhere, because they know you're vibrating here. So if you want to pull somebody out of a negative energy, which they will be triggered, and you will have to, hold space for them, but you need to see it happening first, that you are bringing them up to your vibration. And when you do that, then that conversation becomes a little clearer and they understand you and they allow you to speak. So I hope that was good.
I love that. I love that, because I really believe that, and I'll speak from myself personally, I have firehosed people because it gave me a little in, and I'm just like, ah.
Yeah.
And I shut it down, and I probably did more harm than good. And I absolutely don't want to do that in any situation. We need everyone awakening to this tyranny.
Yeah.
Today, like whether you've taken 5 jabs or, you're signing up for all of them, at least understand, like, it's not just about getting vaccinations. It's a bigger situation than that. And so to be able to bridge that gap with someone so that they can, like you said, raise to that vibration that you're creating. And so you're not hammering them with information or fire hosing them or sitting on a pedestal like, well, I'm right and you're so stupid. Or I hear people call them sheep or sheeple or feel like COVIDiots, which is, I get it, because it can be frustrating when people are so angry and they're in fear and they want to come after you. But in the end, that's just creating more division.
Yes.
And that's
I done it too a little. Do you know what I mean? Like some of my posts were a little hard because I'm like, you gotta wake up. You know what I mean? You get so mad. But it's me
Yes.
coming from, but it's us coming from love, right?
Yes.
Us coming from a different space. And it's not that you're like fire hosing them. It's just more like once they give you open, you're like, okay, this is my chance. But you have to realize that they can only absorb so much information from you because all of their other information has so much in there. They have no more space. It's like your cup is so full. And when they drink a little sip and then you come in to speak into that little sip, you're like, oh, let me get it all in. But it's overflowed by that. You know what I mean? So anything you gave them has already left their cup. They don't have the space. They've been consumed with so many vibrational attacks going on. It's been a spiritual, emotional, physical. And people that don't understand that, it's really hard for them to hold space on any other perspective, but the one that's keeping them in fear because they feel like they're a part of this community now, that they're helping people, right?
Can you speak to that? Because I think that is what's become the new hook is this virtuous, this I'm a good person. I am saving the planet. I'm saving your grandmother, even though none of it makes sense. But they believe that. So that virtuousness, the good girl, the good boy cage, I call it. How do you navigate around that? At least a lot of it can back to when I was talking about spells.
Yes.
The English language, we're spelling, we're casting our spells. And so what we want to be able to do is bring in that voice from the heart.
Yes.
Because there is a different tonation when I'm speaking from my heart.
Yes.
And I don't have an agenda. I'm coming in love, but I want to have a conversation so that we can both bring in some connection between your soul and my soul. Cause that's what we're really trying to have a conversation to. Not the person that's been brainwashed or is hypnotized and is in fear and they're just repeating the mainstream media, which I don't call them that. They're just a pharmaceutical advertisement.
Yes.
Now, if we can just start calling things the raw truth, I think we'll be a lot better off.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah.
Because when we give him the respect or we call him Dr. Fauci, he's not a doctor.
I know.
He's a maniac. He's an insane maniac.
He's a psychopath. Yeah, he's definitely not a doctor. But that's what, and that is where people see themselves because everyone loves a title, right? They love to be in a title.
A label.
And they grow their whole life to have a title. And when you do that, what has happened is that they have so many people now that have never had, weren't the athletic type people or they weren't this. So they were kind of in between, but those are the people that are like, oh, I'm here to save people. You know what I mean? So they're in this committed relationship to feel like they're saving somebody, but you can only save yourself. Right? You can't feed anyone else. You can provide them knowledge. You can provide them a seed so that they do their research. But at this point right now, we have seen the people and the souls that have leveled up and the souls that want to stay there. So the ones that are in the middle may have a chance to evolve. But right now, the saving part is you be in your truth and allow them to be where they are. Because now we have to focus on making sure that we don't get caught up anymore, that we stay in the high vibe so that we can radiate a little bit higher. This whole spell thing, it's so intense. And it also has been bringing us down. And if it brings us down, then there's not going to be enough energy to circulate up here to keep everything where it needs to be, right? Because they just keep coming.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like planting the seed. That's why the best way is to do it more fun, energetically. And I want to balance out and make sure that people are just in a higher vibe. So I started like the Rebel Courage energy, because that just means if you feel something, you need to speak it. And if someone feels upset with what you speak, then that's okay. And that's them. But we need to just feel our soul, and because we're getting messages all the time. So we just need to let our messages out, and we need to be okay with that and be okay where free will is a choice. And that's what was all this has been wrapped up into our free will. So the people that chose, then they chose, and they're going to have to take the steps. And when they want to reach out to you, then you give them your hand. If they are not, we need to start, I say, leveling up to the next level, right? And we need to stay in that level. And that level is a consistent energy of being in your wisdom and your intuitive energies right now. So anything that's intuitive or guidance or signs that you're seeing, pick up and go and move and take action into that, because that's going to keep us to the next level so that we can pull away and keep the vibe high and help as many other people that are up on the top ladder trying to get over.
Thank you. I have so much to unpack with that last conversation because, okay, first, I truly believe you're right. God is in the choice. We all have a choice, but when you're so perhaps brainwashed, traumatized, you don't know there's a question to be asked. That's what you and I are here for. We're here to say, hey, sister, hey, brother, there is another way of viewing this. You know, may I offer you, or maybe I could invite you to join me in a conversation. It doesn't need to be a debate or a fight, but just, you know, help me understand. Help me understand how you came to that point of view. Then we get to this place where, you know, I ask people will say, well, how do I know if it's my voice or God's voice? Like they want to write everything down. They want to, you know, these lists. And I said, well, does it taste like freedom? Does it taste like that personal sovereignty where you now can feel your power? Or does it feel like you're subjugating your power to another entity out of fear because you don't want to deal with it? So those are those two feelings, you know, in the body where it can be, okay, yeah, that's my voice. And you start to hear it, and that's that muscle. It can start to build on itself.
Exactly.
So then we get to, that's, I believe, what we all are after for the most part, Kerry. I believe people are really wonderful at their heart, at their core. They really are. We all want the best for one another. I see that every day working as a nurse. I see that every day with families taking care of loved ones. So in that, we can understand that that's that commonality. So when you mentioned this rebel courage, that just pings all these lights for me. Like that's what each one of us, I believe, needs to stand in right now.
Yes.
That rebel courage, because my voice is not going to be your voice. We're not going to agree on everything, nor should we.
Right.
We're each, you know, if we are all, say, God consciousness, we're these individuations of this God consciousness. So I am so curious, how does Kerry Morgan experience the universe? What does she see? How does she experience it? What is her enjoyment? What are her sorrows? What is her tragedies? And the same for all of us, if we could come together in that space. So if you wouldn't mind just talking more a little bit about what rebel courage means to you, and there's just a little bit about what you do too with that.
Yeah. So usually every year I try to evaluate myself in the beginning of the year, and then at the end of the year. What did I do to make myself feel happy? How did I feel happy? Did I feel happy my day? Did I feel happy my year? But usually when I get those words, I was like, and I called out and I sit with my space. I sit outside and I say, I would love to have a word that can help heal people right now. So, or a phrase. It's like it has to be powerful and it has to be a statement that I sign off on and I create and I shift a little, right? Pivot. So, you know, I was writing down some things and then that came to mind because usually words like confidence will be my thing for the year, and everything when I fill out, I'll just, you know, that word confidence, I create a space around it. So when I need it, when I hear that word, it actually makes me calm. That's what I used to teach in yoga, and I'll go to that in a second. But the rebel courage, stay in rebel courage. When I put that, people like, yes, it's a feeling I created around that phase. Because when I made that phase, it was when you say it, it's going to give you the courage to make your next move. And that was the reason, because I'm holding space literally for people in that phase, for them, or that phrase, for them to phase into their next life, obviously. But when people say it, because I was like doing my TikToks or something, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I could do this. And it's just a slight little seed of words that have been put together because I've listened and the wisdom came to me. I said, I need something to make sure that I can, when people hear it, that gives them a courage, but it also gives them an instinct to be like, oh yeah, that's what I needed right now. And when you say words and are spells, they are, but you can also create energy behind words. So just by me putting those words together, connected to me, and if anyone, they instantly feel it because I created that space for them. That is something that we forget, that we have to remember. Our body has like 37 trillion cells in it. So all this stuff we're getting bombarded with is affecting us emotionally, vibrationally. So if you also are feeling bad about yourself, then it's going to pull you out of sync. And believe me, I've been pulled out like a bunch this whole time. I mean, the ringer has been pulled through, and I just say, hey, you know what? I was born for this. I got this. You have to cry for a couple of minutes. You cry and you get back up and you go, right? Because we are the only ones going to be able to save people. I mean, it's us.
Yeah, you're right. And
we were waiting for
that's it. Like, I think the other thing is people always ask me like, well, how do you know, Robin? Because you haven't been duped by any of these things. And I said, well, because their message is the same. When you're getting a counterintelligence or a psyops, the message is, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We're communicating with forces that you're not privy to. And we've got it handled. We're winning. You guys just stand down, relax, drink your beer, drink your wine, go get your fast food. We've got this. So I said, when somebody says that, yes, it makes you feel good in the moment, right? Great, thank God. I don't have to do anything. The world's going to be amazing. Yay. But when you realize like, oh, it is up to us. So that's funny, because that was going to be my next question is, I get very triggered by this. The first thing that triggered me was, I don't like being told what to do. And people telling me that I have to cover my breathing holes. Like, no. Now you're going to see a different side of me when you tell me to do that. And I got devolved. My energy devolved to their level. I didn't raise them to mine. And I learned quickly not to do that again, because I'm not going to do anything that harms myself on purpose. So what is your strategy, Kerry, to stay in that higher vibration? Because that high vibration is what will bring us out of it. What will bring other people that are asleep or in fear or harming themselves or their children because they're in fear. What is that vibration when you're low? How do you bring it back up to this frequency?
Yeah, so that's definitely great. And I think a lot of people should know that fear is one of the lowest vibrations, right? And the fear, everyone's going to die, and you're worried about something that may breathe into your mouth. And literally, you can go and walk out, if it's your time to go, you can cross the street and it can be your time to go. Yeah. So why are you living less than your fulfillment in life? Because you're technically not living truly right now. So then you're really not living anyway. I mean, and people always say that I just want it to go back to normal, but you didn't even like your normal. Do you know
That's right.
What did you really want it to go back to? This was the biggest shift on the energy of life. For you to you're already uncomfortable, for you to get into a different mindset, right? It was the opening space. So when you're in that lower vibe, a great thing to do is, which I have like about 1,000 journals, but I have 5 that I kind of get to, and there's certain days that I really plow into them. And I have one that just deals with gratitude. I have one that deals with more business and, money and affirmations for that. And then I have one for self-love and, all of these different things that help me. But when you're first starting out, And just think about it like and I tell people like a credit score. So say if your credit score is below 500, then that's a lower vibe. And then things are going to be like all kinds of bad things may happen when you're at like 200, right? When you hit the 300, oh, wow, look how cool. You're not complaining as much, maybe not gossiping as much, right? When you get over 500, it's like, boom, they're giving you money and change is falling down into your lap, like you get all this credit and everything's good for you. That is the same thing with vibration. It's the same exact thing. We forget that we are complaining, we are distracted, we are listening, and we are reacting. When you start creating and you start loving and you start in gratitude and you also start the emotional feeling and the spiritual journey, that is where you can shift. But one quick way that you can do is when you wake up in the morning, you take a deep breath, but before you touch anything, phones, anything, you just go through your body and say, I love my eyes, I love my skin, I love my mouth, I love my ears, I love my nose, I love my hair, I love my legs, my hands, my fingers. I love that I can create energy and I can move. Just do a quick gratitude. It can take 2 minutes. It can take as long as you need, but do it every day in the morning and night. And that alone will shift you, because then you start loving yourself just a little bit more. And that's where I think people can start.
That's gorgeous. And I'll add a little piece of that, because I love to, before I work with a patient or if I'm working with a client, I do that love, but I say, God be in my voice and in my speaking. God be in my ears and in my listening. God be in my eyes and in my seeing. God be in my hands and my touching. So that I know that it's like my ego is in check.
Mm-hmm.
I love my ego. I'm not saying, the ego is not bad whatsoever. The ego is how I can have a conversation with you. It's how I can love my son. It's how I see myself as separate when I'm really truly not. So it's loving all of that. God be in my ego. I love you, ego. Thank you for showing up so brilliantly and brightly. That's those pieces. And then you're in that vibration, because and that brings up this point, is that any self-admonishment or self-shredding, when we falter, because we will 100% falter, we will devolve, we will divest our energy when we shouldn't, because we're human beings, and that's part of being on this plane, bumping around. But then the trick is, in that moment, it's okay. Like you would your 5-year-old or your 10-year-old. It's like, it's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. Just brush yourself off, get back up. Let's get that vibration back up. What's some simple things we can do? What's another simple thing people could do? Okay, they've scanned their body. They're awake now. They've scanned their body and they've loved every piece from their pancreas to their toenails.
Yeah. Right. That's a good one, because I forget you do have to go inside too. I mean, like going on the outside is good. And it's really like people, there's so much out there for people to tune into. And I think that people maybe just forget that they never truly love themselves. Do you know what I mean? Like how many times, and I've posted that, and it's for me too, like a love right now has been on the low burner, and I'm like, dude, what's going on? You know what I mean? You got to turn it back up. But how many times do people say, or let me ask the audience, how many times do you say the word love? Just period, in through a whole day. So another way is to check your thoughts. Go through one day, give yourself one day of being the total person you hate, right? You hate yourself, right? Just say, let's just be that person. That's what most people are. They're complaining, they're gossiping. Yeah. But you need to see where you're holding all the space for all this drama in your life. You know what I mean? Is it when you're with your friends? Is it when you're by yourself in the car? Is it when you're, talking to your parents? Like, you need to actually break down your 24 hours so that you can actually see where you're holding all this negativity, because you choose to be in it. You definitely choose to be in it. And once you kind of do that, maybe ask yourself, have I said the word love today? If just by saying the word love, It's a heart-filled word. And I find myself not saying that word all day. And I'm like, why not say love? So the easy way to do that, or the word blessings or bless or anything like that, anything that has that joy, peace, any of those
Yes.
high vibe words, right? There's a whole group of high vibe words. Grab them, find them, which ones work for you, find 5 of them. And then when you do that, start pulling them into your vocabulary. So when you're touching something at the store, oh my God, I love that color. Oh my God, how beautiful and peaceful that is. How joyful that is. Oh, wow, I love this car as it drives by. Instead of saying, oh, I want that car. Why don't I have that car? Do you see the difference? The difference is, instead of you desiring something else that someone else has that you don't know how they put the work in to do it, just like, oh my God, I love that color, that car. That would be the next color I will achieve. It's the process, and it's you understanding the vibe that you're in first. I mean, I can try to tell you to do the singing bowls. I can give you like 100 things to do, but until you break down your day and kind of say, what words am I exactly using? And I had to do that for myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not using high vibe words at all.
Yeah.
People are like, I can't afford this. And they're all in it. They're like, oh, this person, but they're reacting to all these 5-second videos and everything, give yourself a day, cut out all of the TV and everything, and just kind of be like, okay, walk outside. Do I love this? Do I love, what do I love? What makes me feel peaceful? I think that will shift them a little bit better too.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I say that too to my patients or clients. I just say, hey, I love you.
Yeah.
And I do. It's not, everything I say is authentic. I made a pact with myself to be as impeccable in my word as I can, and to try and be as impeccable with each person and to speak raw truth. A lot of times I get flack in the beginning. It's like, some things can be painful to hear, but it's done from love. And people always come back sometimes years later and say, I appreciate you telling me that. I didn't like it at the time, but it woke me up. And when it's done from that place of love, we can now form these connections. And the best first place to form that connection is with yourself.
Yeah. And by you sharing love with other people, it magnifies back to you. Right. So just by you doing that and being okay with them reacting the way they are, it helps you. And just like blessing, you can be like, oh, I bless my mailbox, or I bless, just bless things, and just, it's little simple things. And some people think it's so hard. It's really not. You can really change by like 5 minutes a day and see a tremendous change and shift.
That's a good point to make, because everyone has their practices, and your practices, I hear them, I'm like, oh, I love that practice. Maybe I could integrate that into mine. Another way to do that that's tangible for people that kind of have your engineer brain is you get your purest water that you can find, whether it's spring water that you've tested or alkaline water, whatever, but you can speak blessings into your water as you're stirring it. You can say prayers into it. You can say it for other people, heal other people with it. It's amazing what the structured water in us does with the structured water in here. We form this relationship. And if you're near a body of water, you can go to the ocean or the lake or the streams, and you can connect with that water as well. And I don't know if her name's Veda. I'll put it in the show notes, a link. Okay. She does these water experiments where she would put in a petri dish and she would just say the word love, or she would put her hand underneath it and the water would freeze in an imprint of either a heart or love or her hand. So the water is communicating with us. The water is interacting with us. That's just one tangible example of how we are connected to everything. The water is just how we're understanding it, but everything's interacting with us, the plants, the lights, the sun, everything. So we can interact with those blessings. And then all of a sudden, when you're doing that, oh, I'm high vibration now.
Yes.
That was 5 minutes.
Yeah. And it's so simple to almost like you forget the time, where the time has gone, right? And those moments. And it just comes from your heart. When you create from your heart. So that is your hands. Anything you make with your hands or journaling, it gets it out of your head. But that is a creation. And we forget that we are so powerful. And I think that's the one thing. And a lot of people don't get to hear that I am proud of you. So even if you say it to yourself, just say, I am proud of you. Just put your hands on your heart. Just like take a deep breath. Just inhale, bring the energy up to the crown of your head. And then with your eyes, you just gaze in between, like right up to the crown of your head. And then just like really feel and just say, I am proud of you. Just meaning wherever you are right now in your life, if you can do that and just say, because you forget the wins, you forget your normal is someone else's dream. What you live every day is someone else's dream. So if you can just remember that you are so powerful and you've already created so much magic and keep turning your magic on every single day, that will really, really help a lot of people get out of this. Like, I've been in this weird energy last couple of days. I'm like, what is good? It's so intense. Like, I can't even, like, I try to talk and I'm like, it's like that. So I had to like get a massage. I had to like really settle my mind because I was just zooming and I'm like, I can't go there because it was fire. That's how I was in the beginning. I was like, oh my gosh, people have to wake up. And I was just really like trying to make sure I let out as much knowledge as I needed to. Now it's time to pull back a little and start bringing this back up again.
I think I feel that collectively too, though, Kerry, because I mean, everything you're talking about, and I think maybe that's why it resonates with your post so much, is that we do go through a collective energy field, and sometimes it gets very intense. And it can be really difficult to manage that because it's a collective energy. And I remember when this whole thing first started, when everyone was just talking about it. I'd go hiking and people were on the hiking trails talking about it. All I heard was that word over and over and over. I still haven't spoken that word. I refused.
Yeah.
It's nonsense. But I was doing a deep meditation and I actually saw this cloud around the planet, the globe. Okay. However that looks. Yeah. I don't trust anything anymore, but this cloud around where we're living. And it was this fear cloud, this fear and anger cloud. And what they have found too, with the rudimentary science that we're having to believe, but fear and anger are the number one disruptors of your immune system, if we're going to call it that. And every person that was hospitalized and died had these, obviously comorbidities with obesity and diabetes and everything, but they all had anxiety disorders.
Oh my gosh. Anxiety is it. I'm going to tell you what, in reality, no one has actually told us how to feel good in our body. That's number one. We have been so out of sync in their physical body. And that is what's going on. So many people are so medicated. They don't trust anything. They don't even trust when they do feel good. So the medications make them just feel bad all of a sudden, they're taking all the stuff and then everything happens right now with this situation they were planning for years because they talk about it first. It has to be talked about first and it has to be in plain sight. And then they start to put the ball into action. And fear is also something that actually brings you down to where you think you can never heal yourself. And this one point is so important, even though it's a woman's standpoint, but men, can obviously, they are magnificent too. But a woman, you can have a baby and you can feed your baby for 9 months. So before we had all these hospitals and stuff, people were having babies and feeding their kids. So just imagine that, how much power that is. And how we forget that if you can do that, you can heal. So there's Joe Dispenza, or his book. He's amazing. He was in a bike accident and he healed himself. He had like 3 vertebrae that were broken, and he healed himself just by tapping into your mind, because they have us so unable to understand the power of healing. And through this whole thing, I literally didn't even get any testing or anything. And I didn't even have a sniffle for 2 years, because my statement was, I am the healthiest version of myself I've ever been. And that's all I said. And so when anyone brought up the conversation, I just shut them out of my energy field. I'm like, your fear is not coming through to me.
Yes.
I was like, yeah, you're okay. You can say that, but I'm at my healthiest I've ever been right now. And I would just move along. And that's how I lived throughout these 2 years. I'm just like, yeah, I'm so healthy.
Yeah.
This is not phasing me. You can't let people in your energy field. And this is what's
No.
been happening. Their energy field is depleted. It's completely defeated.
That I'm glad you brought it up, and I really do want to make this point. Your health is your choice.
Yes.
Disease is a choice, because what we were talking about before we started recording is that when you get a symptom, you don't take something. It's like, oh, I feel anxious, pop a pill or go for a run or whatever. It's just, I feel this feeling in my body. Let me identify it as closely as I can. And then let me rewind the tape. How did I get out of harmony with my soul? How did I get out of this alignment? That is the root of every single illness and every single disease.
Yes.
Then we compound it with what we've been told to do, which is take these toxic prescription drugs, these toxic over-the-counter drugs that and then again, self-fulfilling prophecy, they will make you sick. They will get you invested into this sick-based system. Then all of a sudden, now you're in that cycle where get it back to, even if you're in that cycle right now, taking 30 different prescription drugs, you can start right now just by centering yourself and trying to determine, how did I get into this place in the first place? What was that? Because a lot of times it's unreleased trauma, or it's, taking on too much, or putting your head down and just doing what you're told and not listening to that soul's voice. We all need to hear our voice. We all need to have that connection with ourself first. So I appreciate you saying that about taking responsibility for your health. There's not many people that understand that yet.
Yeah, it's a big, we're so powerful and we forget. But I'll leave you with this one thing that I think will help people. If people start asking, how can I settle my soul? What makes my soul feel settled? Right? If you ask the right question, you will get the answers. And that's what I think people need to do. They're so unease. It's like people walking around with things that cover their face before, and there's no signs in the stores, and they're riding in their cars by themselves still with them. I mean, because I'm in Jersey, so this happens all the time. And I'm like, am I missing something? What is going on? And what's going on? So their soul, it just feels so unsettled, right? And even when I feel out of sync, because listen, we are all here to getting tested every single day, and they're coming at us at our range, because our fire, when you walk in a room and you could see people looking at you, instantly the ones, they look at you and they watch you. And it's like, now the evil spirits can jump into these soulless souls now more. So they're jumping all around, following the higher vibe people to try to trigger us. So I have found myself realizing time jumping, where I go back into maybe in the past or maybe a little into future who I want to create. But it was a place where I felt really good. When did I feel my best? When did I feel this? I'll go back, time jump a little, find that energy of myself, and then bring it up right here to where I need it to push me further. I mean, it's amazing, right? It's a little trick, but it's absolutely cool. And what you kind of do, maybe if you wanted to feel, because I kept telling myself, I'm going to feel ageless. So I kind of go back to where I felt really good in a certain age and bring that energy up. And people are like, oh my God, you look so young. And then for a whole week, people tell me how I got changed. It's amazing. You can do that with the way you feel. Maybe you ran a 10K, or you did a triathlon, those types of things that you forgot you have done. Go back into that energy, grab a piece of that energy, because that's you. You can grab that energy and you can bring it back into the now. And you'll be like, oh my God, I feel so healthy. Yes, exactly. That's what you needed to do. You need to go back, get out of these 2 years, go back and grab your peaceful mindset, your good energy, and pull it back in to lead you into your next journey.
I love that. That is an amazing note to leave on. I'm gonna add just one thing to that. What I do too is, you can go back and heal yourself. You can go back as this adult version with childhood traumas. Time is not linear. We can we can do a lot of things that they have kept us hidden from, but that's for everyone to awaken to on their own as well. But what I want to add to that is you can picture that future version of yourself, like how you're walking, how you're moving, what you look like. And you can bring that you can integrate it with this person, and this person will start to behave differently, will start to behave like that future version of yourself that maybe, whatever lives in more remembrance of their abundance and their worth and their worthiness and their youthful glow. It's, all of that is under our control within this soul's body. So, Kerry, where can people find you if they got so lit up by this conversation like I did and they want to work with you?
Okay, so I'm revamping my website, but I am on Facebook, so it's just Kerry Morgan. But if you just, I think, Google Kerry Morgan,
I'll put a link. I'll put a link too, guys.
And I'm on TikTok too, so I kind of love TikTok.
I love your TikTok.
Yeah, I used to be on LinkedIn, but they kind of pulled me out of that because of everything that was happening. I got taken away, so that was not a good thing.
But how do you stay on TikTok? They ban me all the time.
Oh my God. Well, LinkedIn completely kicked me off. So now I'm on TikTok. So they have flagged me for some stupid, like that's how they do. They flag you on for nothing so they can just hold you hostage for whenever they want. So that's where I'm at right now there, but I'm still sharing. I'm just trying to stay completely positive and then just share my stories or where all the knowledge is, and keep my positive on my page.
Yes.
So so if you do that on there, that'll be fine. But I want to start a Rebel Courage community for people so that they can be more enlightened. And I'm going to start my new podcast. So there's all these things. And I feel like this was the age for me to rebirth, my brand again, because I used to always have, it was 21st century, and I was already explaining how to live in this generation like 10 years ago. So that was my website before. But I feel like I'm always ahead of the game, and I have to remember to come back and tell people this now. I'm like so far in the future.
That's it. Like when you're not in a linear phase and you realize time is not linear, it's easy to be all over. And I think right now, those of us light spirits, we need to center in, ground, because we got some serious collective work to do. We got some shields to lock. So I really appreciate you taking your valuable time and spending it with me on this podcast. You've given us some amazing, valuable, dreamy, loving, joyful, peaceful words, ideas to bring within ourselves. See how it resonates within you, the listener. Yeah. So thank you, Kerry, from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you. And I am so glad you are on this planet at the same time I am.
Yeah, me truth. We need each other right now. This is the time. If you find somebody that you connect with, definitely stay in touch with, because this is like a video game right now. We're literally living a video game. So we're all the different levels are just the energetically different levels. So just find that so we can just pull and create in that space of love and rebel courage.
Rebel courage and connection. We need each other. You said it. Hammer on the nail. That is exactly correct. We need one another. We need to connect, lock our shields, and stay in that high vibration.
Totally agree.
Thank you so much, Kerry.
Thank you.